Well, hello again, World of YouTube. My name is Pat, and today I want to go ahead and talk to you about the future of consoles and the next gen. I'm not some kind of informant, and I'm not going to sit here and give you some Photoshop pictures and, claim it's the next system and I have insider information, which I don't. This is all speculation based off of my views, and I hope that you can sit down and listen to what I have to say and hopefully post on it and we can have an intelligent conversation. So, to begin with, this gen of consoles. I think that this generation of consoles is the absolute worst in history. You've got three consoles. One of them is busted and never works. One of them is well overpriced and has no games for it at all. And another one is being shoved out of the journalism because they're not bribing enough people and they're being labeled as a kiddie system, and they're making a killing and they're selling more than any other console. And I'm talking about Nintendo Wii here if you can't figure that out. But at the same time, they're being the industry saying, "Oh, well, the Nintendo Wii's a pathetic system that's not selling," but that's just not the case. In fact, the other day I was in Walmart digging through a bargain bin, and there was this little old woman, about 80 or so, looking through Nintendo Wii games, and I had a conversation with her, and sure enough, she has a Nintendo Wii and plays it, and I think that that's something that the other video game consoles need to look into because they're overlooking it. Is that video games aren't just for 13-year-old boys with hard-ons for blood. There's an actual whole market out there. Video games are nothing more than a media. They're a medium. They're like movies or books or paintings or music. It's not intended for a specific audience. It's intended for all people. And to try to make it into that mold is just dumb and pathetic. So yeah, I think that's one lesson though that Nintendo is going to teach the rest of the world. And there's a lot of people out there who love to throw stones at Nintendo and badmouth them. But the fact of the matter is, look at their history. Look at their history. They're like easily, like without argument, the most creative and innovative company out there. They gave us like the Nintendo model. Like, believe it or not, all these consoles out there today are following the business model of the NES. Because before the NES, they used to sell consoles at cost and all that, but now they sell them below cost and make the money back in revenue and selling video games. And they also invented quality assurance, but also they gave us the video gamepad, shoulder buttons, analog sticks, force feedback, multiple controller slots, wireless controllers, and the list just goes on and on and on and on and on. And people who badmouth Nintendo just don't know what they're talking about. But let's see some other lessons that are going to be taught from this generation or possibly ignored. Xbox, I think, though, that they have not learned their lesson like they should have about releasing bad hardware. And their system is the worst system in the history of console systems as far as reliability. And they actually have over 100% failure rate on the systems. That means that there are more times that Xboxes have broken down than people have bought them, and that there are people out there who have had to send it back multiple times, such as myself. I've had to send mine back 3 times. That's just ridiculous and uncalled for. And now it's like they just kept getting it up and running and up and running until like eventually it was past my warranty, and they turned around and said, "Oh, well, we'll fix it for $150." And I'm like, "Well, yes, we're supposed to fix it 3 other times, and you didn't." So yeah, I think that was really criminal of them, and it's just not just me. There's lots of people out there who got the same treatment, but they're just not. I don't think they learned any lesson from it. So I hope that if that does happen, the next generation of consoles, that they're going to pay dearly for it. Finally, the PlayStation 3, though, I think that Sony did learn some lessons, though. I think, though, that one lesson that was taught before from the industry and they just ignored is that you don't ask for more than $300 for a console system. It just doesn't sell. And historically speaking, every single time, and like look this up, every single time that there's been a generation of consoles, the most expensive one is always a flop. I mean, there's been consoles out there, and I know you're gonna think I'm crazy for saying this, but there's actually console systems out there who have cost like over $1,000, and not surprisingly flopped. And I think though that $600 is a ludicrous price tag, and that I think they're gonna need to learn the lesson about it. So some trends though that are out there, and I kind of running short on time here, but some other trends that you can expect to see is that I think that micro purchasing is going to be taken off, and that like games like Fable 2, where they release 2 versions of it, and they can't be bothered to fix the bugs and like all that until like after it's released. They'll make patches for that down the line, and like they give you an incomplete game that doesn't have doesn't have multiplayer, and that's all socially acceptable because they can just market that away. But then at the same time, like they find the time to go ahead and release a more expensive version of it that they call special edition. That's the actual full retail version that has all the proper dungeons and all the weapons, and it gives you bonus. And they call it bonuses, but it was released at the same time. So really, you were developing at the same time. So really, it's the complete content, and that like the other version is just a lighter version, and I think that's criminal and that's wrong. Um, like you can find the time to program these extra dungeons and whatnot, but you can't find the time to fix the bugs. That's nice. Um, I think that's a trend though that'll just keep on going. And other trends though is like peripherals. Peripherals have been proven, especially with games like Rock Band and Guitar Hero, and I think you can like expect a lot of those in the next generation of consoles. And I think you can also expect them to constantly expect you to rebuy hardware, and that's something that's a really pain in the ass. Like the Microsoft, the 360 controllers and the PlayStation especially. Oh man, the PlayStation controller has been identical throughout all the consoles, and yet at the same time, like they make some stupid minor change to it, and you can't play your PlayStation 1 controller on your PlayStation 3, and you can't play your PlayStation 2 on it, and they're going to continue on that, and there's just minor differences. And like, look at this. This is a 360 controller, great controller, it's very sturdy. It lasts forever. It's got a great lithium-ion battery that you can buy separately, and it's just a solid, hard piece of like hardware that will never break down. But unfortunately, it cost me $60, which is just an insane price tag. I mean, if you want two players in a game, that means you're gonna be spending $120 for that. But yeah, when this next console comes around and they got Xbox version 3, I know that they're going to replace the controllers all over again. They're going to be identical. This looks exactly like an Xbox One controller. And I think that you're going to expect the exact same thing like with the 3. They're going to have the exact same controller, and they're going to charge $60 for it all over again. But I'm coming down to some crunch time here, so let me get into the actual meat of it. This is what's going to happen, the way I see it. I think that the next format that's going to be big, if not next one, but the one after that, is downloadable content. Downloadable content has too many advantages to overlook. I mean, like for starters, there's piracy. It's almost impossible to steal, and that's a big, huge part of it. And then there's also issues of distribution, and that since you can't resell downloaded games, you can't go and sell it at a second-hand store. That causes like the market to be able to keep it stable. Like they can't, there's no fluctuating of price because of that. They can set the price at whatever they want, and also they can distribute an exact number of it. So there's a lot of advantages to downloadable content though as the exclusive format, and I think that's going to be definitely taken off. Something that also, excuse me, what I basically think is this is how it's going to happen though. This is how it's going to start. 2010 is going to roll around, and Microsoft's going to release their next Xbox system out, their Xbox version 3.0, and I think that they're going to wait until the holiday season until they start selling them and all that, and maybe give it like a 2 to 3 month buffer. And the month that it comes out, PlayStation's going to step up and go, oh yeah, here's the PlayStation 4. And because the PlayStation 3 is such an utter flop going on right now, that they're going to want to get out of there as soon as possible, and they're just going to politely ignore their 10-year promise and all that crap, and it's just going to go away. And I think that that's going to fluctuate the market, and I think that they're going to learn from Nintendo that they need to widen their market up and not just sell to 13-year-old kids. And I also think though that one of the things that they're going to find is that Nintendo is completely unsinkable because they make their own video games, and like Xbox and Sony they just aren't capable of doing that. They don't make their own systems, and they haven't done a very good job of keeping themselves afloat. But Nintendo, they're making money in two different ways. They're making their systems and selling the rights, and then on top of that, they're making their own video games. So it's like, no matter what happens, they're not going to jump ship on themselves. They're always going to have an incredible development team behind them, where like Microsoft and Sony doesn't, and that's as simple as it gets. They don't have what it takes to keep themselves afloat, and I think they're going to try to push into that. I think that charging for every little service is going to become big, that people have proven that they're willing to pay for the right to use their own internet connection on Xbox Live is going to be the new standard, and I think you can expect Sony to do it. I don't think Nintendo will be doing it though, because I find that they're a pretty ethical system, like our developer, and they've always been pretty ethical, and I think that goes beyond what they would be willing to do. I do think Nintendo is going to be around for a long time, and they're going to keep on the low end of the market, and they're going to stay in business because of it. And I think that the Wii is going to be around for a very long time. Um, but yeah, that's basically what I see happening. Please leave